How's it going, everybody? RazingHel here, and today we're going to be taking a first impressions look at a trading card game, a virtual trading card game called Age of Rivals. So this game, as you can see by the very nice artwork, it has a style that is reminiscent of stained glass windows. That's basically what you have here. It's centered around a theme that I'm very fond of, that being the castle medieval kind of age, and then it also has some very unique aspects for a trading card game, because I know a lot of you might be thinking, another trading card game with microtransactions in it, right? Well, not this one. In Age of Rivals, you pay $10 up front and you get the entire game, and there are no further microtransactions. So if we go over here and take a look at the cards, for example, you'll see cards are unlocked. I mean, cards, well, some of them are unlocked already, but others are locked. And you'll be able to acquire these by playing matches, and that's it. That's the only way to get more cards. In addition to this, Age of Rivals bills itself as being somewhat unique, given the fact that you don't actually have decks that you build. So once again, if we take a look over here at the cards that we have available, there is no deck that can be built from these cards. And you might be thinking, well, how does that work then? As you get more and more cards, aren't you going to have a problem with, they're not going to be synergistic enough? And I think that is a valid concern. So a lot of hope lies in the developers being able to balance the game appropriately, where pretty much all the cards are able to interact with others in some way. There's going to be some sort of card synergy between them. But, minus that negative, potentially negative downside to having no decks in it, I really like the idea, because when I have played a lot of other trading card games, one of the aspects that I have not necessarily been fond of is the deck metas, where people just micromanage the hell out of their card decks to get these very synergistic cards that go for a very particular play style, and then they basically play that style over and over again. I find that to be tedious and quite boring overall. So that's one of the reasons why I've not really enjoyed games like Hearthstone. So the idea, the concept of a trading card game or a collectible card, this is more a collectible card game, where you don't have decks, and instead you have to sort of think on your feet while playing the game and make good decisions with the cards that are dealt to you, rather than a more predictable set of cards that come from a deck. I think that is a very compelling and original idea here. So aside from that, when we take a look at playing, we have your standard options. You can play against other players online, you can play against your friends, and you can play against the computer. The computer has two difficulties, normal and hard. If you lose when you're playing against the computer, you do not get any rewards. If you play online, though, you will get gold even if you lose, like half of as much. It's a randomized amount, and it's not guaranteed each time. So that's something to keep people incentivized to keep playing online, I think, especially because it's one of the dangers, is that with the smaller collectible card games especially, if there isn't much of an online scene, you're going to have a problem of finding players to play against. So far, I have not had much of an issue. During the afternoon here in the US, I was able to find somebody to match up with in around 15 seconds, and when like at midnight, it was around 20 seconds. Now, obviously, there's not a whole lot of, there's no way to really tell if the players you're playing against are actually people or actually bots, so that is something to keep in mind. I'm not really aware of whether or not there is a way of discerning that, as there is no in-game chat of any sort, which is pretty standard, I think. So instead, what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be taking a look at the bit of the gameplay flow, and I'm going to be playing it on the normal difficulty just to be a little bit more chill. I've currently played all the different difficulties, normal, hard, and then against other players, obviously. I think I win a fair amount of the time, like maybe 50% of the time. Pretty decent overall, considering the fact that I'm not like a big, I'm not that knowledgeable about a lot of the game's synergies yet. Okay, so here we are. We have to choose, what are they called? Rivals. These are rivals. Even though you're choosing one for yourself, it's going to still be considered a rival, and each rival has additional, how would you put it? Like, you can choose a particular card. So in other words, these unlock over time, and they are guaranteed cards that will pop up when you play that character. So unlike having a deck, you have mini decks of 3 cards. So like if you really have a good synergy strategy, you can get those. You're going to be able to be guaranteed to have those 3 cards in your deck once you have unlocked all of these additional locks here. And you can do that simply by editing them. Guaranteed cards, you can click choose cards, and then you can click on one like this and you can choose what it's going to be. And different leaders have different traits that you can choose. So in other words, if we take a look at Kubra, now he has, let's see here, any economic card I can choose for him. With Ziana, we only have any infantry card. And then as you can see, like the additional slots, the prerequisites for a card that you put in here, it has to have at least 2 attack. And then for the third one, it can be any card that's drawn in the very first round. So that's one of the reasons, that's one of the incentives to actually go ahead and unlock more of these rivals, as they're called, because they all have different abilities, different skills, and that will allow you to make decks that are synergistic while at the same time keeping the deck building to a very, very absolute minimum. So I think that's a very interesting idea. But let's go back to versus computer, normal difficulty. We will play as Kubra, personally my favorite at the moment, as you're guaranteed a resource card that is pretty valuable. And then all of the owned cards right here are the ones that I currently have in my massive deck that I've unlocked. So without further ado, let's get started. Here we are on the actual board. Now, when you're playing against other players, this bar right here in the center of the screen will count down as your time ticks by, which is one of the reasons I wanted to play against the computer, so I had some opportunity to explain sort of what's going on here. So now the game consists of a total of 5 rounds. So the very first round, you're going to be choosing all 8 card slots. So right here you can see my card slots, upper right side of the screen, and my opponent's 8 card slots, lower right side of the screen. So the very first round, we will choose all of our cards. Second round, we'll choose 4 of our cards. Third round, 4 of them again. And then the fourth, oh wait, maybe it's only 4 rounds in. Okay, well, I guess that's not a very good indicator of how experienced I am about this game, but let's carry on anyway. So when it comes down to choosing cards, they all have a gold cost. This is the basic cost to buy them and put them into play. And then as you'll see, there are little modifiers next to the cards. So if you own these resources in your resource collection here, as you'll be seeing in a moment, let's go ahead and choose training here, for example. So bought training card. You know, each person takes a turn. Now, as you see, I have this resource down in my collection along with my gold. And as you'll notice here, there are a couple of cards that are actually cheaper now because I have that resource. So managing building up economy cards as well as attack cards and culture generating cards is very important. It's very important to sort of balance that out so you don't have too much of either one of them, because then that leaves you very open to your opponent exploiting that weakness of yours. And that's especially true given the fact that you might have noticed, but the cards swap from side to side. So in other words, you'll be dealt a hand of 4 cards, for example, and then when you choose one, that hand will swap over to your opponent. And then your opponent can choose the ones that you left behind, or your opponent can choose one of the cards that you left behind. So this means that if you focus particularly on choosing a very specific card type, like Underworld or Artistic all the time, what can often happen is your opponent then will choose a lot of the cards that can counter that, since those are cards that you're not taking out of your pool right here. So what we have left, or well, we have the leftovers of what the other player didn't want. Since I had the strength modifier, or the strength bonus, what do they call them? I wish I could, apparently not. I wanted to hover over, I wanted to get a tooltip here, but it's not giving me a tooltip. Okay, great for range. Anyway, since we have the strength modifier, the Underworld cards in general are going to be the ones that are discounted, and these rely a lot on sabotaging your opponent's stuff, as opposed to like artistic cards, which generally generate a lot of culture, and economic cards, which generally give you additional gold and additional resources. So knock out an enemy after war, this would cost me a -2 culture. It's an interesting question. You know, at the moment, we really don't know what is going to be the best synergy and all. I don't really like any of these cards, to be honest. If 2 of these, I get to knock out an enemy. I forget what the name of these 2 icons are. An enemy tower or an enemy faith building. So we could try to go for a synergy with additional robbers. I kind of like that. There's really no negative culture aspect to it. So this is round 2. So basically consists of 4 rounds, choosing cards in the very beginning. Let's see here. We have, this is a good one for Holy. I probably should choose this. Yeah, it's the only resource card I have available to me. I'll have to pay a little bit of a tax. You might have noticed that resources that are red means that you're going to be paying 1 tax to the person who does own that resource. So in my case, I had to pay 1 tax to my opponent over here because he owned the resource that the modifier, the bonus resource that was required for me to acquire learning. So that's one of the things you have to think about when deciding which cards are going to be best for you. At the moment, I think we're just going to go with more resources, but you'll notice that since I decided to get this card, the learning card that had the learning resource on it, it means that now he's going to have to pay a tax if he wants to go ahead and play or buy either of these holy cards. So there are things to think about like that. I'm definitely going to go with iron because I already have the training resource, so it's cheaper by 1. And as you can see, he went ahead and took it, and at the same time, oh yeah, so now I didn't get the resource, but at the same time, he had to pay me 1 tax for doing that. But he had a special ability on his cards. A lot of these cards have very intricate special abilities. It can be a little bit mind-boggling to read through them and figure out exactly what they do, but over time, you sort of get used to it. Okay, trade capital. As you can see, I have a bit of a discount for this one because I have the learning resource. What else do we have? All the other 3 I have to pay taxes. I kind of like this one because I do currently at the moment have 3 economic cards, and this special ability of the trade capital is going to give me, or going to give all of my economic cards an additional +2 culture. And culture is ultimately how you win the game in Age of Rivals. So we're not going to be getting any spies apparently. The sneaky tunneler this turn is not going to be doing a whole lot. So one of the things that I would like to do here is work up my military a little bit. I see my opponent already has a skirmisher, so I probably want to keep pace with that. What do we have here? Rain dancers gain +2 culture for each enemy ranged unit. Now that's an interesting thing because there's a chance that he could actually pick ranged as opposed to, like, he has 3 options here. 2 of them are ranged, so there's like a 66% chance that he would pick ranged. But ultimately, I think I'm just going to do better with, and he did pick ranged, better with an actual attack unit, which he then immediately halved because I overlooked the fact that he had a skirmisher in play, which halves the most recent enemy attacker that's put into play. It's one of those things you need to keep in mind. So now you have a couple more resource cards here. I particularly like Western Trade. It's the only card available to me that I actually have a modifier for, and I also don't have either of these types of resources, so I think we're going to go with that one. It's important to remember not to just try to acquire all the resources, but rather the resources you think you're going to be using based on the approach you go for. Since you don't build a deck, that it's not a given, but you sort of get a feel for which approach is the most viable at the moment. I can see he's going for a lot of holy cards here. They're very culture rich, much like those cards that have the culture icon, the artistic cards. The holy cards also generally generate a lot of culture. So here's an interesting idea. Do we go ahead and do northern raids, or should we go ahead and get another attacking unit? So it's a bit of a concern because if I look at what he has to attack me with, I'm looking at least 5 being hit with at least 5. I could handle that with the defense from my Leviathans. It has a defense of 5. If you look at the shield, that's what the shield means. The little red number, those are the attack numbers, and that will come into play much later. But see, if I go ahead and get Northern Raid here, that will be an additional 2 resources, and that will make, you know, it'll allow me to be a lot more flexible in the cards that I choose going forward. So I think we're going to try that instead. And also then we get additional 2 culture from it since I have the trade capital card. So now here is the combat part. As you can see right there, we're competing for cities. How that works exactly, let me explain a little bit. You might have seen the numbers. It goes by pretty fast, but they explain it in the tutorial. The person who has the most soldiers will always go first. If it's a tie, the person with the highest number soldier, so in other words, like 3 over 2 would go first. And if it's an exact number tie, then you both get the city that you get to acquire it. And the reason you play that little part is you get some culture from doing so. So we have to assign hit points here, basically. We're going to take a 3 hit and a 2 hit. If we take a 3 hit to like a card that only has, let me give a better example. Well, maybe we can talk about this later. So like 3 is going to remove everything but my Leviathans card. So I think I'm going to assign it to the Leviathans, and then my 2 can be assigned to a resource or trade capital. Let's go ahead and do that. As you can see, assigned all hit points. Now you get to acquire all the culture from the various cards, and then we go to the end. If any knocked out cards were in play, or if any cards were knocked out during that play, they would have been removed from the game, and then the other cards are put back in play. So I have a lot of holy cards here. Second round, as you might have noticed, like the 2nd and 4th rounds. Oh yeah, right there it says, it tells you which round you are. Round 2 of 4. So there are 4 rounds in the game. I kind of, for some reason I thought 5, because 5 is a nice number. But there are only 4 rounds. So the 2nd and the 3rd round actually have, or the game chooses your 4 cards for you. These are 4 cards that you selected previously. So in the 1st round, I selected a total of 8 cards, remember? So 4 of those cards they chose and went ahead and randomly gave them to me again. And then I have to try to find some synergies here with additional new cards that I'm going to be presented with. As I said before, we have a lot of holy cards in play at the moment, or available to us at the moment. A lot of these are tempting. Temple of Wisdom. Pretty much everything that is available here I have there modifier resources to make it cheaper, so that's pretty nice. I think we're going to go ahead and try to go for the Temple of Wisdom. If we can get 2 more of those cards, it's unlikely this time, but it could happen later on in the game. Like, we're only on round 2 so far, so that's something to keep in mind. Replace ally of the lowest attack with random card. That could be helpful. It says, works once you buy this card. Upgrade your weakest attacker to a random type card type of the same. All allied defenses. I am tempted to go with the stone wall though. But I mean, this would be the perfect play of the trainer because my Leviathans can't really get much weaker, I don't think. So let's see how that goes. Yeah, it upgraded it a little bit. Not much. Here I got my guaranteed card. As it turns out, I really don't need it a whole lot. I could buy it for the iron, but I think we have better opportunities here available to us. But we'll see. Oh yeah, here I actually wanted to buy walls. So I'm going to buy this card. Generally what walls tend to do, these are fortified type cards. They provide a lot of armor, which can be valuable when the enemy hits you for a lot. Because how that works is you can't just assign very powerful enemies to very weak cards. In other words, if I assign an enemy, like he has a cat about here 6, I assign it to a trainer here, which only has a defense of 2. It will split that 6 in half, and then I'll have to assign 3 damage to another card. So it's important to have some very high ranking cards to help tank some of those especially high attacks, those high number attacks. Heals all damage to 1 castle at the end of a round. That sounds quite good. And I also get a fair amount of culture from it. I could pick up the Southern Trade, but we really don't need a horse, I don't think, at the moment. Next purchase is free. Let's go ahead and get Guild of the Masons, and then we'll do that. So he gets the first one because he had the highest number. I got the second one because I had the unit there, and then so on. So yeah, I don't have many enemies against him, so 6. I have to assign 6. So I think we'll assign that to the walls, and then we'll have to assign 3 to something else. So I don't want it to get destroyed. Most of these cards would get destroyed, and that would remove their bonus. So in other words, if I destroyed my Western Trade card, for example, I would lose my resources that I gained from it. So I think Guild of the Masons sounds pretty good because I don't want to destroy my walls. But Guild of the Masons is going to be taking some damage, and then my Guild of the Masons should go ahead and heal the walls, because the walls units and stuff do not naturally heal if they haven't been knocked out. So if they're knocked out, then they'll come back, all but one will come back, and they will heal -1 shields. In other words, if you had a unit that was originally 5 shield, and then they got knocked out and they didn't get destroyed, one will get randomly destroyed. If they didn't get destroyed, they'd come back with a 4 shield. So, but then if the unit wasn't knocked out at all, so in other words, if I had an attack hit Northern Raids here for 2 damage and I left it at 1 damage, it would be at 1 damage for the next round of the game. So here, round 3 of 4, getting close to the end. Let's choose some cards. We have some pretty good ones here. Cards I don't necessarily want my opponent to get their hands on, so I think we're going to go with Inconceivable Wonder. A lot of cultures, it's important, and yeah, I think that's the best choice here. It is a lot of culture. Okay, we also have, I've noticed we don't have a lot of attacking units. I've not seen a lot of them available to me, and that is something that's going to happen from time to time. After war, ruin this card an enemy greater than 6 culture. So let's see if he has an enemy card. It says ruins itself and 1 enemy with a high culture. But apparently it has to have greater than 6, and at the moment he only has a card with 6. So I'm not exactly sure it's going to help me any. Stronghold, always useful. 1 ally can't be knocked out or ruined, and I can duplicate an enemy's choice. So what does the enemy have available? They have the Colosseum. They might choose that. So I think we're going to try and do the counterfeiter. Yeah, and they went for the Colosseum, and then I duplicated it. So that was a pretty powerful play right there. Okay. After war, ruin this card and an enemy greater than 6 culture. Again, he doesn't have any cards that have greater than 6 culture. So the danger here, though, is if I don't choose it, and then he chooses it, that would be very bad for me, because he could knock out my Inconceivable Wonder. I mean, these are the things you need to think about when choosing cards, is because these cards are going to switch back down to him, and then he's going to have an opportunity to pick the cards that I passed over. So I think we're going to have to go with the Gleeful Destroyer anyway, which is a bit of a shame. And then we have, I guess we're just going to have to go with these knights here. With culture, attackers have plus, okay, all your attackers get stronger while combined with this card in culture. So we should get a little bit stronger from that. I don't have a whole lot of attacking units right now, but I managed to score 1 of the cities in the conquer phase. So now I have to assign 9 hit points, 9 damage points. It's a bit of an interesting one. Like, I don't see any cards. He still doesn't have any cards over here with additional culture. So I think we're just going to throw out the walls. That's a shame to tank it that bad. Like, I could go and destroy Gleeful Destroyer. I could throw that damage at Gleeful Destroyer, considering that the enemy does not have any culture cards with greater than 6. So I think I might do that. Like, and I'm just looking to see if it says all swords units, all infantry gain +2 culture. I think we're going to destroy Gleeful Destroyer. See, now as you can see, this was a good example because it split that attack in half. It wasn't enough. It wasn't sufficient to tank the whole thing. So we destroyed Gleeful Destroyer, and at the same time, we have to assign the other half of that attack to another card. So let's go ahead. It's an interesting approach. I'm not sure what I should assign it to for it. Pretty much the only thing, I think we're going to have to assign it to the walls. And then the 2 here I can assign to Northern Raids. So Northern Walls is down to 5, or Cyclopean Walls. So far we're doing pretty good in the score business, and this is the last turn. There, 1 card got destroyed because it was knocked out, and there weren't any other knocked out cards. Otherwise, 1 of the other cards would have been restored if there had been multiple knocked out cards, or if there had been multiple cards that had been knocked out. Okay, so the last round, much like the first round, we have to choose our cards all over again, except this time it's the deck will be available from the cards that we actually selected, or I selected the first time. So heals damage, we know we don't need that. I think we're just going to go with learning here. It'll provide a little bit of culture, so it's not a bad decision really. 2 knocks out enemy highest. Okay, I have to keep an eye on his card. Northern Raids, not a whole lot of good stuff here, I have to admit. Northern Raids does provide a fair amount of culture, trade capital, but it's so expensive. For double the culture, I'm paying more than double the price. But, you know, the question is, will I have enough gold to cover all of my expenses? I think we're just going to play it safe here and go with iron. Oh, he picked up the Sanctuary. It's a holy card. Ooh, like, see, I would rather pay the 3 gold for Inconceivable Wonder. So we're going to go with that. He's picking up some cards with taxes on them. Temple of Wisdom, +3 if I have 3 holy cards. I find that to be a little unlikely, but Trade Capital here is a good one, because I have 2 of those 2 resource cards here already. So let's go ahead and pick up Trade Capital. I see he has a lot of military units already, so if I can, I really should be picking up more offensive units here. But that doesn't seem to be happening. Colosseum, it's pretty good. I'm just worried about running out of gold now a little bit. We're down to 9 gold. Northern Raids. I guess we're going to be picking up these walls again here. As you'll notice, the cards are not swapping down to the bottom now. These are just, it's renewing from the deck that I'd previously selected. And then I think we're going to have to go with the Asankani. Or the Asansani. Not important. So randomly goofy named thing. This is going to cost us 5 gold. He already ran out of gold. And let's see here. Shield Wall is tempting. It's a worthless card, but it does have 2 defense, so we can assign some of his attackers to it, which can always be useful to have a throwaway card like that. And we, oh no, this is the last card we get to play. So I think we're going to go ahead and choose Western Trade then. Replace ally of lowest health with a random card. See, it says upgrade your weakest attacker to a random card of the same type, but I'm not, I think we're just going to go with Western Trade. And he has a guard tower. And that guard tower really helped him. Oh boy. He's scoring a lot of points there from that stuff. From the conquest phase. So now I have to assign 9. I think that's going directly to the walls. As you can see, since it was over 50% of the 9, it wasn't split in half. I managed to assign that entire extra damage. So then what we have here, I have a lot of cards with a lot of culture on them. So I'm a little bit worried about assigning. Here, we're going to assign it to the Knight, and then we have 2 left, and I'll assign that to Western Trade. So overall, that kept most of our culture cards in play, if not all of them. And then we're going to score all that culture from them. As you can see, cash in the gold, and I won. Of course, this was only on the normal difficulty, so it was pretty much expected that I would. But then they give you a little bit of a rundown. You click OK, and then here's where you choose the awards. This is how you get gold to buy additional card packs. So that was 15 gold from there, not a whole lot. 15 gold is like the minimum that you can get in an actual multiplayer match, because even if you lose against another human player, you will be guaranteed at least 15. So as you can see, it pays to play multiplayer, but there are various different denominations here. Like you can get 50 if you click on the right chests and stuff. But okay, they're done with that. Now let's go ahead and take a look at some of the card packs that we've earned. So I don't have any in a moment, but we can buy some. And as you can see, no microtransactions whatsoever. Spend 100 gold to buy a card pack. Okay. And then we'll buy another. Oh, we can't. We have to open them up first. Okay. It's 3 cards per each. Okay. Unlocked another rival. Another card to unlock a rival. And an actual common card. I think the greens are common. So we have like 500 gold, so we can certainly buy some more packs. Let's open these up here. Age of Rivals, I got another common card. Another card, that was the player that I was playing, or the rival I was playing. And here we have a purple card. I think purples are a little bit more rare. So I'm just gonna go ahead, open up a few more of these card packs. Everybody likes opening card packs, what can you say? Got a card for that rival, another common card, and another common card. But as you can see, like, the important point here is that if you are sick of the virtual card games with all their microtransactions in them, Age of Rivals is making like a strong point here that you're not going to have to worry about any microtransactions being in the game. It's $10 straight up, and then after that, you just you unlock cards as you play the game. Even if you lose playing against other players, you're still going to be guaranteed something. So then if we take a look over here at Rivals, I unlocked a couple. I know I unlocked this dude, so now I can finally play as him. Other characters you need to get those cards you've been seeing to unlock them, and they're acquired randomly through the decks. And since there are no microtransactions in the game, you're guaranteed to always get new cards whenever you get a card pack. So in other words, unlike a lot of virtual card games where you end up having to collect multiple cards of the same type and then trade them in for a card you actually want, that's not going to be a problem here in Age of Rivals. As always, you will get cards that you don't have before or that are currently not in your deck. In addition to this, we have challenges. There's a little bit of a story campaign going on here. I finished the first level. It gave me a special card. If I finish the hard level, I'll get another special card. It's a pretty cool one right there. Like I said, I only played the very first chapter. Then we have Empire. This is basically like a multiplayer sort of faction thing. I didn't find any factions that were accepting players that are going to be inactive, so I just made my own. And I think that's pretty much it. So overall, I think Age of Rivals is a great idea. I like the art style, I like the setting, and I really like the business model. I think we are sort of at peak saturation when it comes to virtual card games with trading or microtransaction elements in them. So it's nice to see somebody do an alternative to that and yet do it competently. Like, really the only complaint I've had about Age of Rivals is the fact that some of the cards might be a little bit unbalanced, and then you'll from time to time see that the icons in some cards do not, they kind of overlap each other a little bit, which doesn't look the most professional, but it's by far manageable. It's not enough of an issue that should stop you from playing it. So yes, that is Age of Rivals. It's currently available on Steam right now for $10. Very well worth your time and worth checking out, I think. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for watching as always, and I hope to see you next time.